Why you don't really exist. Imagine tomorrow your best friend hands you a diary. Inside, the main character isn't the you know. This version is louder, quieter, braver, pettier. Pick your adjective. Now multiply that by every human who's ever crossed your path. Each brain carries a private cut of the film called you, and none of the reels match. So which one's real? Trick question, maybe none. We love quoting Descartes, "I think, therefore I am." Feels rock solid until you wonder what this I actually is. Neuroscience keeps hunting for the self and keeps coming back with an empty net. Memories get rewritten every time you drag them out. Cells swap places. Moods flip. The ship of Theseus? That's not just about boards. It's about every thought you call your own. Swap enough parts and continuity starts to look like a slick editing trick. Psychologists call it narrative identity. You're not a thing. You're a story your brain narrates on the fly. The narrator grabs scraps, yesterday's awkward silence, last year's heartbreak, and crochets them into a plot labeled me. Here's the twist. The narrator is also a character in the same book, erasing and rewriting as she goes. And stories only live when someone reads them. Without an audience, the pages are just ink and dead trees. Picture your mum's mental highlight reel of you. It still includes the supermarket meltdown at age 4 and the birthday you forgot last year. Your high school lab partner's reel skips that entirely, but keeps the scene where you aced the chemistry final. Your newest co-worker only knows the adult who shows up with donuts on Fridays. Everyone's cutting their own private director's cut, and none of the cuts line up. Even the rough draft you call myself keeps getting re-edited while you sleep. Philosophers call Pegasus a non-existent object. We can describe the wingspan, but you won't find him grazing in any pasture. The self is like Pegasus, a concept we treat as real because it's handy. You need a main character to pay taxes, fall in love, feel guilty. Try to point to the thing itself, and it melts into traits. 5'8", likes bad puns, despises cilantro, none of which add up to the whole. Kant nailed it. Existence isn't a property you bolt on like a spoiler. Saying I exist doesn't add new data, it just drops the story into space-time. Buddhism's shunyata isn't doom and gloom. It's the claim that nothing carries its own independent essence. You're empty of fixed self, yet here you are, functioning. That emptiness is freedom. If the self is built from scratch, you can renovate. Sartre took the same exit. Because we're not a thing, we're condemned to freedom. That responsibility scares us, so we cling to the fantasy of a solid core. The cosmic joke. The clinging itself is just another subplot. Section 6. The power of owning the fiction. Here's the practical upside. Once you notice you're a living story, you can grab the pen. Want to be braver? Start writing scenes where the protagonist takes tiny risks. Your brain will quietly reshoot the old memories to fit the new arc. Other people watch the reboot, update their private cuts, and voila, you're simultaneously author, character, and shape-shifting cast member in everyone else's head. None of the roles is more real, but all of them are steerable. Pause for 5 seconds. Think of someone whose version of you feels hilariously off. Now ask, what scene could you shoot tomorrow that would force them to recut that version? When you're ready, hit play. Still doubt it? Listen to yourself code switch. With Grandma, you're polite, volume up, jokes filtered. With your gamer crew, you're sarcastic, warp speed chaos. Neither persona is fake. They're just localized stories tuned for the audience. Your brain does this on autopilot, but once you notice, the illusion of one seamless self dissolves into a cast of situational characters. That's not a bug, it's efficient storytelling. Letting the self be a construct can give you identity vertigo. We panic. Without a solid core, will we drift away or turn manipulative? Relax, stories have gravity. They snag on memory, emotion, consequence. Gravity isn't a hidden essence, it's an effect of mass and motion. Likewise, self-stability is an effect produced by attention loops, not a soul atom holding it all together. If everyone's carrying a bespoke version of you, kindness becomes film editing. One calm conversation can recast the villain in someone's mental movie into a flawed but decent co-star. Empathy then isn't soft, it's practical narrative engineering. When enough people recut their reels, your own self-image starts to sync with the consensus, a virtuous feedback loop. Drop a comment. What's the strangest edition of you that somebody else believes? Extra credit if you're already planning the sequel to replace it. So do you exist? Well, yes, as a handy fiction. No, as a fixed entity. Sort of, as an improv act everyone keeps rewriting. The relief? You're off the hook for finding some buried true self. Instead, you get to curate the kindest, smartest, most interesting story you can, knowing every pair of eyes that lands on you becomes a co-author. Imagine this. Your best friend hands you a diary. Inside, the main character is not you as you know yourself. This version is louder, quieter, braver, or pettier. Now multiply that feeling by every person you've ever met. Everyone holds a unique perception of you, and none of them match perfectly. So which one is real? Trick question, maybe none. We often quote Descartes by saying, "I think, therefore I am." Sounds solid, right? But what exactly is this I? Neuroscience has been trying to figure that out, and guess what? It keeps coming back empty. When you pull up a memory, it changes. Your thoughts can be like the ship of Theseus, swapping parts endlessly. The idea of a consistent self? It might just be a clever editing trick. Psychologists call this concept narrative identity. You aren't a fixed thing. You're a story your brain narrates all the time. Your memories, like last year's heartbreak or yesterday's awkward silence, blend into a plot labeled me. But here's the catch. The narrator is also a character in her own tale, rewriting as she goes. Without someone to read it, that story is just ink on paper. Think about how others view you. Your mum remembers your supermarket meltdown. Your high school buddy highlights your chemistry acing moment. Your new co-worker knows you as the fun donut bringer. Everyone has their own cut of the story, and those edits never truly align. The rough draft you identify as myself constantly changes too. Philosophers suggest that the self is similar to Pegasus, a non-existent object. We describe it, but can't find the essence. We treat the self as real because it's functional. You need an identity to navigate life. But when you try to define it, it slips away into traits like height or favorite food. Here's a fresh perspective. Nothingness isn't a bad thing. Buddhism teaches that nothing has an independent essence. Yes, you lack a fixed self, but you're still here, functioning perfectly. This emptiness can be liberating. If you aren't rigidly defined, you have the power to redefine yourself. Sartre explained that without a solid identity, we are free. Once you realize you're a living story, you can take control. Want to be braver? Start writing scenes where you take small risks. Over time, your brain will adjust old memories to fit this new narrative. Other people will notice these changes and adapt their mental cuts of you too. You become not just the author, but also the character influencing others. Now, let's take a pause. Think of someone whose view of you feels hilariously off. What new scene could you create tomorrow that would make them rethink their version? Still doubting this notion? Notice how you change around different people. With your grandma, you're polite and careful. With friends, you're a chaotic jokester. None of these personas are fake. They're simply tailored for different audiences. This isn't a flaw, it's effective storytelling. Feeling unsettled by the idea of a fluid self? That's normal. It can lead to identity vertigo. Without a fixed core, will you lose yourself? Don't worry, stories have their own gravity. They snag on memories and emotions. Self-stability comes from the loops of attention and experience, not from a solid anchor. Here's the ethical upside. If everyone has their version of you, kindness becomes storytelling. One calm conversation can shift someone's view of you from villain to beloved character. Empathy becomes powerful narrative engineering. When enough people recast their reels, your self-image aligns with collective perceptions, creating a positive feedback loop. So drop a comment. What's the weirdest version of you that someone else believes? Extra points if you're planning to write a sequel to change it. Finally, do you exist? Yes, as a handy fiction. No, as a fixed entity. Sort of as an improv act everyone keeps rewriting. The relief? You don't need to discover some buried true self. Instead, you get to create the most interesting, kind, and smart story you can, with everyone else becoming a co-author. If you found this thought-provoking, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.